Amen. All right, so this is week 7, and this portion is called Vayetze, and it means he went out, and it's so I know we already kind of missed last week's portion where Jacob left his home, and his mother kind of sent him off to go find a bride, right? And he left his home and went back to Haran, to their homeland, to find himself a wife. Would really run from his brother, but to also find a wife and to move forward in his life. So he went out, right? And this is from Genesis or Beersheba, chapter 28, I think verse 10, right? And goes to chapter 32, verse 3. And it's a really, really great portion. I think it's good. We can learn a lot from the life of Yaakov, from Jacob, right? And Sandra, you're smiling.
Just happy to be here.
Okay.
I miss you guys.
I missed you too. I'm happy to be here. So I had an interesting conversation with somebody recently, and they were actually saying something about me leaving here and pastoring somewhere else, and I thought about that for a minute, and I actually began to weep a little bit because I've really grown to love everybody here and grown to love being the pastor at Lion of Judah, and I can't even, the Lord would have to shake the earth for me to know that it was real and to go that way. So, I'm glad to be here. As hard as it is sometimes, right? It's still really good. Hallelujah. All right, well, let's begin, huh? Then Jacob departed from Beersheba and went toward Haran. So, Denny, you have the New King James?
Yes, I do, sir.
And what does it say?
Now Jacob went out from Beersheba, and he went toward Haran.
So the King James Version says he went out. Mine just says he went. So, So it could be he went or he went out. Vayetze. Verse 11, he came to a certain place and spent the night there because the sun had set, and he took one of the stones of the place and put it under his head and lay down in that place. He had a dream, and behold, a ladder was set up on the earth with its top reaching to heaven, and behold, the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. So I just think this is amazing. Right off the rip, right off the bat, we see, if we look with spiritual eyes, we see two allusions to our King, two allusions to Jesus right away, right? And Jesus actually kind of talks about both of these. The rock that Jacob lays his head on. Jesus is the rock, right? He's the foundation. He's the one which we should all be laying our heads on, right? And then the ladder. I am the way, the truth, and the life, and there is no way to the Father but through me. Right? And he even alludes to this ladder when he's talking to Nathanael. I think it's in Matthew, right? Or no, John. John chapter 1, verse 51. Right? He tells Nathanael that he saw Nathanael sitting at the tree. Well, let's go there for a minute, right? John chapter 1, verse 51. I'm just going to back up for a minute, okay? I'm going to start at verse 48. Nathanael said to him, "How do you know me?" And Jesus answered and said to him, "Before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you." Nathanael answered him, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." Jesus answered and said to him, "Because I said to you that I saw you under the fig tree, Do you believe you will see greater things than these? And he said to him, Truly, truly, I say to you, you will see the heavens opened and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man. So, what Yeshua is really saying to Nathanael here is oftentimes what is accredited to releasing miracles and power over the earth on God's behalf? Angels, right? Oftentimes, like when God is releasing something, an angel goes forth, right? They're ministers of flaming fire, it says in the book of Hebrews. So Jesus is saying, in other words, to Nathanael, like, you think just because I saw you sitting at the tree, you think that's amazing, you're calling me the Son of God? Wait until you see the miracles that I do. Wait until you see me raise Lazarus from the dead. Right? So, but right off the get-go from this, we see that Jacob gets to a place of desperation, really. He's running. He has nowhere to go. He's left his family. Now it's dark and the sun goes down. He left with nothing, and he lays his head on a rock. You know, when you're laying your head on a rock, you got nothing. Right? Yeah. I know Rabbi talked about going to this place, Kericho, Kenya, or I think it's Kericho, or Kakuma, Kenya, which was a refugee camp where I believe these Kenyans were running from the Sudan. You know, they were in this refugee camp and they had nothing. And he walked into this hut, and their pillow was a piece of wood with a V carved out in it, where they would lay their head in the V. You know, when you're sleeping on stuff like that, you have nothing. So here he is. He's laying his head on a rock. He's obviously left with nothing, right? He's in a place of desperation, and it's there that he finds God. He had a dream, and behold, a ladder was set up on earth with its top reaching to heaven, and behold, the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am Yahweh, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie, I will give it to you and to your descendants. Your descendants will also be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south, and in you and your descendants shall all the families of the earth be blessed. He's reiterating the covenant and the promise that he made to Abraham, that he also reiterated and made with Isaac, and he's reiterated it and made it with Jacob. Now, imagine you're in his position, like running for your life from your brother Esau with nothing, laying your head on a rock. That'd be pretty hard to believe, wouldn't it? Like, here I am, Lord, what are you going to do with me? It would be hard to see and hard to believe. You would need to see a ladder and need to see the angels ascending and descending in order to believe it, right? So when God visits him, he says, Behold, I am with you and will keep you wherever you go and will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised. Then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. Now, he could have been talking about the actual physical land, and he could have been talking about sleep in the place of dreams. Dreams are very important. I need to do better about stewarding my dreams. I used to remember them better, and I get a little older. I've got a lot more things going on in my mind and my life, so I don't focus on them as much. And my journaling skills are in the tank, just to be real with you. I need to journal more often and give myself space for that. You should write your dreams down. I used to do it a lot. And my wife was always really good at writing her dreams down and remembering them. So we need to be paying attention to our dreams. Job, in the chapter 33 of Job, it says, when man is sleeping, God speaks once, no twice. But man isn't listening. And God will give us instructions in our life, concerning our life. And I think even, sometimes you'll get a dream from God. You might get a dream from the devil, from the enemy. You might just get a dream from your psyche, processing and dealing with things. But I think at the end of the day, I think we should evaluate all three circumstances. And I think we need to get better at distinguishing which is which. Now, I know somebody that I was trying to pour into for a long time that seemed to have a lot of dreams and thinks that every one of them is from the Lord. And I try to, tell this person, well, not every dream that you have is from God. But, they didn't want to hear that and didn't want to listen to it. So, but we need to, we need to process even the dreams that are from our psyche. We need to think about, well, why did I have that? What's going on inside of me? You guys know how I feel about self-reflection. We should always be, reflecting on ourselves, who we are. What is driving us to say that thing? Why did I say that? Why did I act like that? Why did I respond that way? Is it insecurity? Is it fear? Is it, pride? Is it arrogance? What's driving me? Was it God? Was it love? I been listening to this. I love it, John Lucas, and there's a lyric from a song of his that says, "When you fight from love or for love." Is it from or for? Anyways, it's either or, right? So I've actually been taking that lyric of that song and thinking, okay, because I'm a fighter. I always have been. I'm kind of like one of those, like Rottweilers or bulldogs. That's why they're good guard dogs. Is because when something comes against them, they don't back up, they push forward. Right? That's why they're good guard dogs. It's like something, and that's kind of the way I am. When something pushes me, I don't usually back up, I push forward. And I've been, really thinking about this. What is it? What's driving me forward, though? What's the motivation for me stepping forward? Is it love? Because if it's not love, so I was actually reading 2 Corinthians when I was in Africa, and there was a situation, and that rabbi needed to deal with, and I was talking to them. It's like, wow, this is crazy. He needed to bring correction to the situation. And I was like, I was just reading about Paul bringing correction to the Corinthians, and I was reading this commentary on it, and this commentator made the statement that correction without love is harsh, and love without correction is weak. So, right, love without correction is weak, and correction without love is harsh, and unfortunately, it's like last night, I kind of brought correction, and there was love involved because I've been trying to bring this person up for a long time, and my heart and my motivation was love. But unfortunately, our culture and society today, especially in the Western world, don't want correction. And if you try to bring any kind of correction or direction, then it's not love. And again, the point that I'm making is, let's remember our dreams. Let's do our best to get up in the morning, or from a nap, and take a moment to say, did you show me anything, Lord? Was it just me? Was it the enemy? Because at the end of the day, even if it was the enemy, like, God will use him to reveal things about yourself or about situations. So, let's reflect, and and let's always be looking to move forward or to fight for the purposes of love. Right?
One more time.
What's that?
Correction without.
Oh, correction without love is harsh, and love without correction is weak. I mean, I think my real father, he, I didn't grow up with him. And then when I was 16 and went and stayed with him for like a month, and then, he was letting me run the bars and play pool for money and, chase girls and do all this stuff, and didn't correct me at all for it. And, I think he thought it was loving and cool, but it wasn't at all. I needed correction. And, we need correction. It wasn't cool. I know, like Tabitha's dad, he wasn't much one for correcting. And unfortunately, it doesn't do any good, When you won't correct, then you really love yourself more than you love the person you're in relationship with. It's not easy to confront somebody and bring correction to them. It's easier. Like, I'd want to be everybody's buddy. I'd really rather be everybody's best friend. But woe to those who all men speak kindly of. Woe to them. And that's the only way you're going to get people to speak kindly of you all the time, is if you're willing to compromise. Anyways, right? Okay. Verse 16, then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. He was afraid and said, how awesome is this place? Like, he encountered God and it made him afraid, in a good way. Like, how awesome is this place? Wow. This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. So Jacob rose early in the morning and took the stone that he had put under his head and set it up as a pillar and poured oil on its top. Now, it's interesting, the Talmudic rabbis and all that get into this discussion about, well, he left with nothing. Where did he get the oil from? Yeah, right? We don't, where did he get the oil from? And they go back and forth about it was from the angels, it was from this, it was from that, right? Like, I don't know. He left, his mom sent him off. His mom and dad sent him off. So he probably had some stuff, He probably had something. So, but yeah. And that's, I think it's one of them interesting things where we could get so caught up in the beauty of rabbinic Judaism and the fight and the struggle that, so we can strain the gnats and swallow the camel, right? It's like a perfect example of straining the gnats and swallowing the camel. He called the name of that place Bethel. However, previously the name of the city had been Luz. Now, Bethel means house of God, right? El, the end of this, is El, right? Elohim. El is a title for God. And Bet is house, right? A lot of Messianic congregations are Bet this, Bet that, house this, house that, right? Congregation, house. Luz means separation. So I think it's pretty cool that the name of that place before this encounter with God that Jacob had was separation. And that, he encounters God and Jacob renames it House of the Lord. Now, is it that place that is the house of the Lord, or is it, or is it the dream state is where we meet God? I don't know. I think it's both. God's everywhere, right? Verse 20, then Jacob made a vow, saying, if God will be with me and keep me on this journey that I take, and will give me food to eat and garments to wear, and I return to my father's house in safety, then the Lord will be my God. The stone which I have set up as a pillar will be God's house, and of all that you give me, I will surely give a tenth to you. Now, the word if, right, in the Hebrew, it actually means more like, because God proved himself to me, I will. So we really need to dig in, right? We really and that's, I think, one of the beauties of having a Torah study, of having teachers, of having others that have dug in and really digging in ourselves. It's still one of my favorite sayings. I love it. Is a rabbi is like a geologist of the soul. He can lead you to the treasure, but you have to do the digging, all right? And, I'm not Jewish. I'm not going to call myself rabbi, but I believe I'm a teacher, and I believe the Lord is continuing to increase and grow the teaching anointing on my life. So, I'm taking just some treasures, guys, and I know it. Treasures old and new, and you got to do the digging. Yes, Sandra?
You said if means really meant because God proved himself to me, I what?
I mean, because God proved himself to me, I will give him a tenth of everything. He is my God. The word if is just the wrong word. It's not really if, because if is conditional. And that's how we walk in our lives a lot, right? Remember I talked about this all the way back in Noah. I talked about the principle of reaping and sowing. Sowing and reaping. Because we think we need to reap and then we'll sow. Oftentimes, right? If God gives me this, so we would read something like this and think, well, Jacob did it, but that's not really what Jacob was saying. Jacob was saying, God showed himself, and because of that, I am going to give him. And I'm confident that he's going to keep me, and he's going to send me for, And that's why, like I said, that's why it's important that we really dig, that we really press. I mean, would it really make sense that, this patriarch of the faith would have encountered God like that and then said, if? Right? No. He was saying, because he's done this. I mean, and I love this, this prayer, this statement that Jacob made is much like one that Solomon made. So let's go to Proverbs chapter 30. Lord, teach me to pray like this. Proverbs chapter 30, verse 7 through 9. This is the wisest man on the earth next to Jesus. 2 things I ask of you. Do not refuse me before I die. Keep deception and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches. How many of you have prayed that? Give me neither poverty nor make me rich. Right? Feed me with the food that is my portion, that I not be full and deny you and say, who is the Lord? Or that I not be in want and steal and profane the name of God. Right? This is a prayer. I mean, Jacob isn't saying, if you make me rich, then I'll give to you, and make me wealthy. And he's saying, protect me, keep me from evil, and keep me clothed, and let me not be, starving. Give me enough. And I think that's a good prayer. We need to learn from that prayer, right? Right. You lack nothing from that prayer. I don't want to get so rich and so full that I forget all about you, God. And that's really where we are a lot in our, in our culture today. Is we're so full and we have so much that we just think we're blessed and we don't need any more. I can tell you, when we go to the rich neighborhood, because we've done both, when we're downtown evangelizing and sharing the gospel with people and offering to pray with people, the homeless guy who has nothing, he will let you pray for him every single time. You'll run into these people that you can tell are well off or better off, and they say, no, pray for them over there. I'm blessed. And it's like, you're telling me that there's nothing that God could do for you in your life. That you're completely So it's a good prayer to pray, right? And it's what Jacob is praying. Essentially is what Solomon comes to say is, give me just enough. Don't give me too much that I forget you, And don't give me so little that I steal and sin against you. Right? It's a beautiful prayer. Chapter 29. Then Jacob went on his journey. It's pretty cool in this portion. It doesn't always happen like this, but in this portion we continue to see like he went out, he went. Vayetze, 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 Vayetze. Like it's that concept that he's going out is continue to be driven in this portion, and a lot of times like it's not necessarily in that same way. So it's really cool. Then Jacob went on his journey and came to the land of the sons of the east. And he looked, and he saw a well in the field, and behold, 3 flocks of sheep were lying there beside it, for from that well they watered the flocks. Now the stone of the mouth of the well was large. When all the flocks gathered there, they would then roll the stone from the mouth of the well and water the sheep, and put the stone back in its place and on the mouth of the well. Jacob said to them, my brothers, where are you from? I love this. So I have a note here, Song of Songs, chapter 1, verse 7 and 8. Let's go there and read it for a moment. We'll, and then I'll talk about it here. Again, chapter 1, verse 7 and 8. The Shulamite bride says, tell me, O you whom my soul loves, where do you pasture your flock? Where do you make it lie down at noon? For why should I be like one who veils herself beside the flocks of your companions? So what's the point that I want to make here? The Shulamite bride is looking for her king, for her beloved. And where does she go to find him? She's asking, where do I go? She knows she needs to go where he pastures the flock, where he makes them lie down. So where does Jacob go? He's looking for his bride. He's looking for the love. He's just encountered God, and he's looking to move forward into his destiny. So where does he go? He goes to where the flock is caused to lay down. He goes to where they're going to drink from the well. So I say this to you single people here, or those online that might watch this. Go to where God is pasturing his flock. Go to where he's causing them to lie down and drink from the well. There's no better place to find your love. And for all of us, right? If we want more of God, and we want, that's one of the things I shared last night. Like, if we want more of him, we've got to be in relationship where he's pasturing his flock. We've got to be where he is. And he says, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I'm in the midst. So Jacob was a smart man. He knew if I want to find what I'm looking for, then I have to go to the place where the sheep are pastured, yeah, and are caused to lie down. So, verse 4, Jacob said to them, my brothers, where are you from? And they said, we are from Haran. And he said to them, do you know Laban, the son of Nahor? And they said, we know him. And he said to them, is it well with him? And they said, it is well. And here is Rachel, his daughter, coming with the sheep. Rachel means ooh, or oh. For some reason, can you plug that in and see if you can get it turned back on? Or not. Yeah, I mean, you can take as long as you'd like to do it. It's okay. 1 second, see if we can get this come back on. I don't know, it must not be taking the charge. Right here, the blue cord would be the power cord. Is it plugged in down here? Into the... No, not that one. The power's on the side. That's the record button. Yeah, it's back on now. Okay. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Well, we'll keep going. Thank you. Was it unplugged? No? Oh, okay. I don't know. Maybe that cord doesn't work well because it's stayed powered before. Whatever. All right, back to the. Are you recording there? Oh, beautiful. Okay. Rachel means you, means like lamb, and yeah, here she's coming. His daughter coming with the sheep. And he said, "Behold, it is still high day. It is not time for the livestock to be gathered. Water the sheep and go pasture them." But they said, "We cannot until all the flocks are gathered." And they rolled the stone from the mouth of the well. Then we water the sheep. It's pretty interesting, right? What I read here is all these people come, and this is the way they've always done it. Is they wait on everybody to come, and it's high day. They should be out pasturing. The sheep should be feeding, and they shouldn't be just laying around the well. And Jacob knows that, and so here we have this guy that has a fresh mind and a fresh set of ideas. He comes in and he's like, why are you doing this? This isn't the way you should do it. And they're like, well, essentially, this is the way we always do it. We wait on everybody to come, and then they roll the stone away, and then we water the flocks, and then we go, and Jacob's like, no. So we see Jacob just does it himself, rolls away the stone. And I just think of some, just going to Nigeria. And I can't remember who I was talking to about this. Was it me and you, Felipe? No, it was Carlos last night, wasn't it? Just how people get so stuck in doing what they've always done. We go to Africa and it's like they can't, they're not even trying to figure out a better way to do something. They're not even ever looking for a better solution. They're just doing what they've always done, and they don't even know why they do it. We do that a lot of times in our church, in our Christendom today. We're doing things that we don't even know why we even do it, just because that's the way it was always done. I came in and taken over as pastor, and I started doing some of that stuff, and it's like people have a really hard time with it. A really hard time with you coming in and changing things, even when it's better. But yeah, so verse 9. While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. When Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, Jacob went up and rolled the stone from the mouth of the well and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and lifted his voice and wept. Jacob told Rachel that he was a relative of her father and that he was Rebekah's son, and she ran and told her father. So when Laban heard the news of Jacob, his sister's son, he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. Then he related to Laban all these things. Now, do you guys remember the last time that he encountered somebody from Abraham's people? Do you guys remember? So it was Rebekah, which was Jacob's mom. And when Eliezer, the servant, came, he came with caravan, with riches, and a lot of money. And when Laban saw the ring and Rebekah's nose and on her wrists, he was excited. So I bet he come running out thinking, oh, another one from Abraham's people. He's probably going to come with great riches. And he didn't come with great riches, right? He came as pretty much a fugitive on the run, just stole his brother's birthright, pretty much had to leave his home because his brother wanted to kill him. He didn't come with much. He had laid his head on a rock, right, on his journey there. But Laban, probably thinking, wow, here we go again. Come on. Laban said to him, surely you are my bone and my flesh. And he stayed with him a month. Then Laban said to Jacob, because you are my relative, should you therefore serve me for nothing? Tell me, what shall your wages be? Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. And Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful of form and face. Now I want to pause there for a minute. And this is one of the reasons why, again, it's important to really dig in. For one, the translator, what does your Bible say, Denny?
Verse 16, 17. Leah's eyes were delicate.
Yeah. You're reading your Hayford Bible, right?
Yes.
So, Sandra, what kind of Bible you got?
New King James.
What's yours say?
Leah's eyes were delicate, but Rachel was
Okay.
beautiful.
Phil, what's yours say?
King James, Leah's eyes were tender.
Tender. Okay. So that's a case in point where the King James is giving a better translation than the NASB. Because the NASB says weak, and that's not actually the right word for it. The better word is tender or delicate or loving, gentle, right? And then the word but really shouldn't be there. Does yours say but?
No, Leah was tender-eyed. Leah was tender-eyed.
And Rachel,
It does say but Rachel.
right.
Beautiful.
But is a contrasting term, right? And it's not necessarily contrasting. It should be more like and. Rachel was beautiful in face and form. So Leah was more tender-hearted, and her eyes were more tender and beautiful. And Rachel was shapely and gorgeous and fleshly beautiful, right? So, the eyes are the windows to the soul. An interesting thing that we'll see is like the priestly lineage came from Leah, and the lineage of the Messiah came from Leah. And it's there's an interesting thing that happened is that Jacob, he bamboozled Esau, if you will, out of the birthright. So he took the firstborn son spot. So some of the rabbinic discussion is, because we know where we're going here, right? That Jacob's about to be bamboozled and end up marrying Leah first. We know that Laban says that, it's not our tradition to marry the older or the younger first. And we can kind of say, well, that's not right. And Laban, but here's what I want to challenge you with, is God used it. God knew that Jacob took the firstborn son's position. So it would have been right that Esau would have married Leah and that Jacob would have married Rachel. So it's kind of interesting the way that God works, because I don't know about you guys, but I believe in the sovereignty of God. And I believe that even like we know Joseph will end up saying what his brothers meant for evil, God meant for good. So even what Laban might have meant, to get extra labor out of Jacob or whatever, God was using for his purposes and his plans. Because he knew that he made this promise. He knew that Jacob had entered into the place of the promise. That he entered into the place of the blessing of Abraham. Therefore, he had to cause this to happen in order for his plan to unfold the way it was supposed to unfold. What's the point that I want to make is like, we need to trust the Lord. And that even what seems like it's, hard or may seem, that God's in it. God's using it. If you get fired or wrongly accused or something in a job, you got to know that it's because God's allowing it to happen. If you're his kid, then he's at work in your life. And even what seems to not be right, he's doing it. And you're going to be amazed when you see, I shared with you guys I was driving Uber because the Lord told me to leave my job and drive Uber, and I'm driving down the road and I get, this lady runs a red light and hits my car, our only car. And I'm excited because I remembered I was young enough in the faith that I had real faith. So I believed the dream and the word that God spoke to me. So I was excited to see how he was going to work in this. And, we need to continue. Unless you be like a little child, you can't enter into the kingdom of heaven. So we've got to remember that God is working all of these things, right? So, verse 18. Now Jacob loved Rachel, so he said, I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter Rachel. Laban said, it is better that I give her to you than to give her to another man. Stay with me. So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him but a few days because of his love for her. Now, I think about it, right? Rachel was beautiful. Jacob loved her. And if God wouldn't have stepped into his covenant name, Jehovah Sneaky, Kathy. Then, he needed it. He done it to me. He's done it to, probably most of us that are here, right? Because if he told you what he really was planning on doing, you would run from it. Or you would stop, or you would, whatever. Or you would try to make it happen yourself. That's what we were just talking about that Tab night last night. Now I'm in a place. If God would have told me when I, was a year old in the Lord, or even 2 years old, that I was going to pastor Lion of Judah, I would have ran. And now that I'm more mature and I know that whatever God's doing in my life is really good, if he was to tell me that, then I would try to make it happen on my own. So he, keeps us shrouded in mystery, so we won't do either. So just keep trusting God and keep following him. Just keep trusting him and just keep following him. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Just keep moving forward. Just keep going. You don't have to know all the answers, right? One of the greatest marks of, in Judaism of loving God is to be obedient to him when you don't understand, when you don't know, when you only know in part. It's easy to follow. It's easy to be submissive when you agree. But submission doesn't even begin until there's challenge or misunderstanding. You can't even submit to God until you don't understand or don't know fully what his plan is in it. When you know and it makes sense to you, then you're not submitting, you're just going with the flow. You're following. Real submission takes, Then Jacob said to Laban, give me my wife, for my time is completed, that I may go into her. Laban gathered all the men of the place and made a feast. Now in the evening he took his daughter Leah and brought her to him, and Jacob went into her. Laban also gave his maid Zilpah to his daughter Leah as a maid. That was like pretty standard covenantal practice. He would give the daughter and she'd get a maid along with it. So it came about in the morning that behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, what is this that you have done to me? Was it not for Rachel that I served with you? Why then have you deceived me? But Laban said, it is not the practice in our place to marry off the younger before the firstborn. Complete the week of this one, and we will give you the other also for the service which you shall serve with me for another 7 years. Jacob did so and completed her week, and he gave him his daughter Rachel and his wife. Laban also gave, as his wife. Laban also gave his maid Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as her maid. So Jacob went into Rachel, and indeed he loved Rachel more than Leah, and served with Laban for another 7 years. Now the Lord saw that Leah was unloved and opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. Now here's something to consider. Two things that God did, is he knew that in order to move things into the direction that he wanted them to go, from the plan of the beginning, is that the Messiah would come through the lineage of Judah. He needed Jacob to marry and to have relations with Leah. Now we're going to see it's interesting, for him not really caring for Leah a lot, he sure does make a lot of babies with her, doesn't he? So I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, he makes a lot of babies with her. But another thing is God, his timing is perfect. So he needed not only Jacob to be with Leah, but he also needed a certain amount of time to pass. He needed this, as we'll see, 20 years before Jacob could just return. He needed Jacob to face the situations with Laban and the trickery and the deception. He needed him to go through that in order to be the leader and the father of the nations of the 12 tribes of Israel. He needed him. It's like David had to go through the 17 years of being pursued by Saul and not entering into his calling. He needed to experience those experiences in order to be the man that God needed him to be as the king and leader of Israel. I needed to, because I've said this, and I'm sure you have too, man, if only I would have come to the Lord sooner in my life, where would I be today? I wouldn't be where he wanted me to be, because I wouldn't have went through the situations and the struggles and the trials and the issues and the learning and the wisdom that I've built, that's been built in me through the things that I've encountered in my life and the situations that I've been through and the sin that happened and all of these things. Like, I wouldn't be the person that God needed to form and fashion in me and through me and out of me to be the man that I am today, to be the vessel that he could use to perform the things of his will now. So Jacob needed to go through this, and he needed to have a desire for Rachel as well, to spend another 7 years. And then, the trickery that we'll see with the changing of his wages 10 times. And he needed to go through those things. Because he needed his name to be changed from deceiver or from, supplanter to Israel. He needed to come to that place where he would be willing to wrestle with God and, be a man of integrity, be a different man. So, again, I think the moral of the story is we trust in God, his purposes, and, we need people to say things and reject us and do all those, accuse us. And we need, Satan to manipulate and move and bend and twist and push in order for God to work out the things in us that need to be worked out and to work in the things in us that need to be worked into us, to create that ready bride, ready to reign and rule with him, with his son in his return. Amen. We need these things, right? Jacob needed them to happen. So it's so good. Like, these things were written beforehand, Paul says, for our instructions. So that we won't get arrogant, thinking that these things wouldn't happen to us. And B, so that we can learn from them, right? So we learn from them. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for letting Jacob go through these situations and writing it down so we could read about it and learn from it. So Jacob went into Rachel also, and indeed he loved Rachel more than Leah, and he served with Laban for another 7 years. Now the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, and he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. Leah conceived and bore a son and named him Reuben. For she said, because the Lord has seen my affliction, surely now my husband will love me. Then she conceived again and bore a son and said, because the Lord has heard that I am unloved, he has therefore given me this son also. So she named him Simon. She conceived again. Come on, Leah, how much unloved are you? And she conceived again and bore a son and said, now this time my husband will become attached to me because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore she named him Levi. Now I think this is interesting. The Lord will become attached, or my husband will become attached to me. So she named him Levi, the name of the lineage of the priesthood that is that mediator and the connector between God and man. Right? The one that's given us, that gave Israel the ability to be attached to God. I just think it's, it's interesting. And she conceived again and bore a son and said, this time I will praise the Lord. Therefore she named him Judah. Then she stopped bearing. Now when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, she became jealous of her sister and said to Jacob, give me children or else I die. Then Jacob's anger burned against Rachel, and he said, am I in the place of God who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb? She said, here is my maid Bilhah. Go into her that she may bear on my knees, and that through her I too may have children. That bear on my knees is, it's like an idiom that, it'll be like my children. She's my servant. It'll be the same as me having children. And, just an idiom. But yeah, it's kind of interesting that she gets mad at Jacob. Like, well, yeah, because he's over here in Leah's tent making babies every other day, right? So she gets a little bit jealous. Now, we know there's a lot of tension between these two sisters. And, the rabbinic, thought is that's why the mitzvah, the law, in I think it's Leviticus 18, don't marry 2 sisters. It stems from this relationship right here, right? Because we know they were still marrying multiple women. God just said, don't marry sisters. And it's bad news. Then Rachel said, God has vindicated me and has indeed heard my voice and has given me a son. Therefore she named him Dan. Rachel's maid Bilhah conceived again and bore Jacob a second son. So Rachel said, with mighty wrestlings I have wrestled with my sister, and I have indeed prevailed. And she named him Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had stopped bearing, she took her maid Zilpah and gave her to Jacob as a wife. Leah's maid Zilpah bore Jacob a son. Then Leah said, how fortunate. So she named him Gad. Leah's maid Zilpah bore Jacob a second son. Then Leah said, happy am I, for women will call me happy. So she named him Asher. Now could you imagine, they're at such odds as sisters with one another, that they were okay with their husband sleeping with another woman. Now could you imagine being so jealous of your sister that you're okay that your husband has 2 more women that he's sleeping with? There's some anger and jealousy there, right? It's crazy. Now in the days of the wheat harvest, Reuben went out and found mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, please give me some of your mandrakes, some of your son's mandrakes. Now, this in the ancient times was considered, they're probably considered an aphrodisiac and would also help women be a fertilizer. I know that's not the right word, but it works. All right. They're like a fertilizer for a woman's womb. So she's like, hey, yeah, give me some of these. Maybe I'll be able to have a kid. But she said to her, is it a small matter for you to take my husband, and you would take my son's mandrakes also? So Rachel said, therefore, he may lie with you tonight in return for your son's mandrakes. I mean, these ladies are off the hook, right? I mean, jealousy between each other, competition's got them in a place where they are, woo, right? It's crazy. When Jacob came in from the field in the evening, then Leah went out to meet him and said, you must come in to me, for I have surely hired you with my son's mandrakes. So he lay with her that night. God gave heed to Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a fifth son. Then Leah said, God has given me my wages because I gave my maid to my husband. So she named him Ishkar. Leah conceived again and bore a sixth son to Jacob. Then Leah said, God has endowed me with a good gift. Now my husband will dwell with me because I have bore him 6 sons. So she named him Zebulun. Afterward she bore a daughter and named her Dinah. Then God remembered Rachel, and God gave heed to her and opened her womb. Now remember, you guys remember, I've talked about this word remember quite a few times. It was even the Israelites were being mistreated by the Pharaoh and by the Egyptians, and then God remembered them. Now, this word doesn't mean that he had forgot about them and then suddenly, oh yeah, I forgot about them. No, when the time was complete. So, for whatever reason, the timing was completed, and now God opened up Rachel's womb, and now it was okay for her to have children. For whatever reason and purpose, God had closed it because the time wasn't complete. Now, we're going to see something interesting happen here. It's when God opens up Rachel's womb and she finally has children. Now, Jacob becomes dissatisfied. He becomes dissatisfied with working for Laban, and now he begins to want to leave. He begins to, want to move on. And so maybe God knew that. Maybe God knew that the moment that Jacob would have a child with Rachel, then he'd be dissatisfied being under Laban. That it was finally the person that he wanted to start his family with, so to speak, right? That he wanted to start his lineage with. And we know that the 2 children that come from Rachel are Jacob's favorites, right? They're actually his favorites. So maybe God knew that this would happen in Jacob. So when the time was complete, he opened up Rachel's womb and allows her to bear children. So she conceived and bore a son and said, God has taken away my reproach. She named him Joseph, saying, may the Lord give me another son. Now it came about when Rachel had borne Joseph that Jacob said to Laban, send me away that I may go to my own place and to my own country, right? He's not satisfied anymore. Now he wants to go back home. Give me my wives and my children for whom I have served you, and let me depart. For you yourself know my service which I have rendered you. But Laban said to him, if now it pleases you, stay with me. I have divined that the Lord has blessed me on your account. He figured it out, right? I don't know if he really had to have it divined, but now he's got a bunch of sons and his flock is growing and flourishing. He continued, name me your wages and I will give it to you, and I will give it. But he said to him, you yourself know how I have served you and how your cattle have fared with me, for you had little before I came, and it has now increased to a multitude. And the Lord has blessed you wherever I have turned. But now, when shall I provide for my own household also? Look, again, Rachel, his beloved, the one he loved, bore children, and now he's ready to provide for his own house. God knows. God knows everything. God knows that If you're waiting on the door to open, it's because you're not ready for that door to open yet. So he's making you wait until the time is right. So he said, "What shall I give you?" And Jacob said, "You shall not give me anything. If you will do this one thing for me, I will again pasture and keep your flock. Let me pass through your entire flock today, removing from every speckled and spotted sheep and every black one among the lambs and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and such shall be my wages. So my honesty will answer for me later when you come concerning my wages. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats and black among the lambs, if found with me, will be considered stolen." Laban said, "Good, let it be according to your word." So he removed on that day the striped and spotted male goats and all the speckled and spotted female goats, every one with white in it, and all the black ones among the sheep, and gave them into the care of his sons. And he put a distance of 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob. And Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. Then Jacob took fresh rods of poplar and almond and plane trees and peeled white stripes on them, exposing the white which was in the rods. He set up the rods which he had peeled in front of the flocks in the gutters, even the watering troughs where the flocks came to drink, and they mated when they came to drink. So the flocks mated by the rods, and the flocks brought forth striped and speckled. Jacob separated the lambs and made the flocks face toward the striped, and all the black, and all the flock of Laban. And he put his own herds apart, and did not put them with Laban's flocks. Moreover, whenever the stronger of the flocks were mating, Jacob would place the rods in the sight of the flock and the gutters, so that they might mate by the rods. But when the flock was feeble, he did not put them in. So the feebler were Laban's, and the stronger were Jacob's. So the man became exceedingly prosperous, and had large flocks and females, and male servants, and camels and donkeys. Now, when we get over here to chapter 31, we're going to see that God actually showed this process to Jacob in a dream. Now, it's interesting because some of the commentary that I read, nobody, I feel like, put this together. They say, oh, well, Jacob wasn't divining. We just think that he had faith, and et cetera, et cetera. But we'll get over here, like verse 10, and he saw it in a dream. Now, at a point in the scriptures, the Israelites come to some water, and it's bitter water. And God tells Moses to do something. You guys remember? What's he tell Moses to do? He tells Moses to take the hyssop and put it in the water. And God uses the hyssop branch to clean the water, to make the water sweet, to make them drinkable. So what I'm thinking is that God gave Jacob a dream, because obviously God's speaking to Jacob in dreams, and God told Jacob this process of putting these branches and in front of these sheep, and that God would use it as a means, as a tool, as a just like he used the hyssop branch to bring healing to the waters, he was going to use this as a tool to produce striped and spotted and speckled sheep and goats. But, so I think it's interesting, though, because he talks here, we're going to see that he saw in a dream. In other words, God spoke to him in a dream that he should do this, and he listened. And we've got to always be, again, digging in. Yes, Phil?
I don't know if I'm out of place here, but when I'm hearing this and reading this, doesn't Jacob kind of sound to me like what Jesus did in the future with the humans? he's like, look, if you guys aren't gonna listen to me, I'm gonna go to the spotted and the freckled and the other sheep from other pastures.
I don't know. I mean, I can see where you're like he's separate. Yeah,
Kind of
you
what
know.
I'm-
I don't know. That could be in there.
And then he actually, Jesus, it exploded in the Gentile region.
Sure. I mean, I think in this particular case, I just think that God is like blessing Jacob
I just wonder
and
if
setting him up.
Jacob's not like a shadow of what the future.
Yeah, I don't know.
So,
Yeah,
I don't know.
possibly. Yeah. I you know, like I said, I was thinking in this instance, it's God's giving Jacob a strategy to show. I mean, Laban's already said, "I'm divine. I see that God's with you," and he's going to actually say that again. And you know that God visited Laban, and you know, so I just think it's God's blessing and favor on us if we're listening. I think if we move forward and listen, and faith that you know he's just opening a door and setting Jacob up to be the man that he called him to be. Okay, so verse 43. So the man became exceedingly prosperous and had large flocks and female and male servants and camels and donkeys. Right? So God blesses him and increases him. Chapter 31. Now Jacob heard the words of Laban's son, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and from what belonged to our father he made all this wealth. Now, Phil, I think sometimes we can be so comfortable that we won't move forward. And I think the Lord begins to prosper people so that accusation and bitterness will rise up against us. And here again, I think we put God in a box sometimes and try to think that he wouldn't work this way. So God blesses and raises Jacob up in such a way that the brothers begin, and Laban himself, their countenance begin to shift towards Jacob. And Jacob sees it, and it's actually a motivating factor for Jacob to go ahead and scram. You know, I think, sometimes we get so comfortable in our lives that the Lord is allowing us to be raised up so that people will come against us and drive us out. And, 'cause God knows our personality, he knows us. So, now Jacob heard the words of Laban's sons saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and from what belonged to our father he has made all this wealth. Jacob saw the attitude of Laban, and behold, it was not friendly toward him as formerly. Then the Lord said to Jacob, return to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you. So Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to his flock in the field, and said to them, I see your father's attitude, that it is not friendly toward me as formerly, but the God of my father has been with me. You know that I have served your father with all my strength, yet your father has cheated me and changed my wages 10 times. However, God did not allow him to hurt me. See, he had already changed his wages 10 times, and that wasn't enough for Jacob to get out of Dodge.
Wow.
So now he had to bring him up and raise up a voice against him. So sometimes we got to go. We should be going, and we're not taking the hint. It's got to get stronger, right? If he spoke thus, the speckled shall be your wages, then all the flock brought forth speckled. And if he spoke thus, the striped shall be your wages, then all the flock brought forth striped. Thus God has taken away from your father's livestock and given them to me. Then it came about at the time when the flock were mating that I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream, behold, the male goats which were mating were striped, speckled, and mottled. Then the angel of God said to me in the dream, Jacob. And I said, Here I am. He said, Lift up your eyes now and see that all the male goats which are mating are striped, speckled, and mottled, for I have seen all that Laban has been doing to you. See what I'm talking about here? Like, he says, we read all this about him putting the sticks out and doing all that stuff, and it makes it like he was just doing it. But now he's saying, like, God was revealing this to me the whole time. And I was actually moving according to the dreams and the words that God would speak to me. Now, again, maybe God was using those striped and spotted sticks as a vehicle to bring forth the sheep. But it was obvious. Maybe he was like, it was a tracking way. I don't know. But he was hearing from God. He wasn't just doing this on his own will. He was hearing from the Lord. Maybe he was marking, okay, here's the spotted speckled ones. They're going to start doing this now. And then I'm going to put them off over here. Maybe it was just a way to track what was happening. I don't know. But it says here, God was speaking to him in dreams, and he knew it was happening, and it was on purpose. So he wasn't, trying to, it wasn't a luck of the draw or trying to divine something. It was literally, he knew it was happening. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar, where you made a vow to me. Now arise, leave this land, and return to the land of your birth. Rachel and Leah said to him, Do we still have any portion or inheritance in our father's house? Are we not reckoned by him as foreigners? For he has sold us and has also entirely consumed our purchase price. They knew their father, right? They knew who he was. He had already consumed everything. There wasn't nothing for them. He wasn't out for their interest. He was out for his own, and they know this. Surely all the wealth which God has taken away from our father belongs to us and our children. Now then, do whatever God has said to you. Then Jacob arose and put his children and his wives upon camels, and he drove away all his livestock and all his property which he had gathered, his acquired livestock which he had gathered in Padan Aram, and to go to the land of Canaan to his father Isaac. When Laban had gone to shear his flock, then Rachel stole the household idols that were her father's. And Jacob deceived Laban, the Aramean, by not telling him that he was fleeing. So he fled with all that he had, and he arose and crossed the Euphrates River and set his face toward the hill country of Gilead. I think it's pretty interesting that Rachel, was like, she's a bit of a bamboozler, right? Like she's like her dad. I mean, kind of like, she's kind of like Laban. She stole the household idols, and there's different thoughts of why. And these household idols were figurines, God worship. They were pagans. They believed that they were, gods of fertility or whatever. So they worshipped them. So she stole them. When it was told Laban on the third day that Jacob had fled, then he took his kinsman with him and pursued him a distance of 7 days' journey and overtook him in the hill country of Gilead. God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream of the night, and said to him, Be careful that you do not speak to Jacob either good or bad. Laban caught up with Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the hill country, and Laban with his kinsmen camped in the hill country of Gilead. Then Laban said to Jacob, What have you done by deceiving me and carrying away my daughters like captives of the sword? Why do you flee secretly and deceive me, and did not tell me, so that I might have sent you away with joy and with songs, with timbrel and with lyre, and did not allow me to kiss my sons and my daughters? Now you have done foolishly. It is in my power to harm you, but the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, be careful, do not speak either good or bad to Jacob. Now you have indeed gone away because you longed greatly for your father's house, but why did you steal my gods? Then Jacob replied to Laban, because I was afraid, for I thought that you would take your daughters from me by force. The one with whom you find your gods shall not live. In the presence of our kinsmen, point out what is yours among my belongings and take it for yourself. For Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. So we know that Laban is telling him, oh, I would have blessed you. I would have sang songs. I would have, but we know that that's not what he would have done. He would have sent Jacob out with nothing if he let him live. He would have kept everything. He'd been deceiving and shifting and changing, and that wouldn't have been what he did. So God again spoke to Jacob and had him flee and not be completely forthcoming about it, so that Laban would run and then have a dream where he encountered God, where God, the Almighty God, said, don't touch him. Don't touch him. I mean, it's interesting how we read the same thing with Abraham, right? This is my sister, and right, a couple of times. And did he not do that with Isaac as well? I believe Isaac kind of was a little deceptive in it as well, and which allowed God to speak to these people and say, "Don't touch them. I've blessed them, and I will wreck you. I will destroy you if you touch my beloved." And to me, I think it's a beautiful witness of how it's not about our perfection. It's just about God choosing us, and because God's chosen us, that He protects us and keeps us. So it's not about us stumbling and falling short sometimes, but it's about God's love for us. And another interesting statement here is, the one with whom you find your God shall not live. Now we know as we continue to read, I know a lot of us that are even in this Torah study are familiar with this account. So what happens to Rachel? She dies in childbirth. She doesn't live. So God allows her to live long enough for the 12 tribes of Israel to be born. And then that's it. And what does this speak of? It speaks of the power of the tongue. It speaks of the power that we have. It speaks of the declaration, the prophetic declaration that Jacob makes, that the one who stole your idols won't live. And Jacob doesn't know, right, that he's talking about his own wife, because he doesn't know that she took him. And they're never found. So I wonder, it never says whether they're found or not, or right. That's it. Yeah, Kira.
What was the point of her taking them?
I don't know if she was just mad at her dad and took them, or if she believed in them, or it doesn't really say the point of her taking them. And I mean, this is again a rabbinic back and forth, and I don't want to put anything there that's not there. It doesn't say why she took them. It just says she took them. And in her taking them, I mean, I think the only thing we can gather from the account, and is that she was like her dad, she was a deceiver, and that was her nature, So I think that's really the point, But it's like she sealed her own fate, and then Jacob says what he says, and we know, she does not make it. She dies in childbirth, and like I said, completing the 12 tribes of Israel, and then that's it. And she passes in that very moment. So, verse 33. So Laban went into Jacob's tent and into Leah's tent and into the tent of the two maids, but did not find them. Then he went out of Leah's tent and entered Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the household idols and put them in the camel's saddle, and she sat on them. And Laban felt through the tent, but did not find them. She said to her father, Let not my Lord be angry that I cannot rise before you, for the manner of woman is upon me. So he searched, but did not find the household idols. Then Jacob became angry and contended with Laban. And Jacob said to Laban, What is my transgression? What is my sin that you have hotly pursued me? Though you have felt through all my goods, what have you found of all your household goods? Set it here before my kinsman and your kinsman, that we may decide between us two. These 20 years I have been with you. Your ewes and your female goats have not miscarried, nor have I eaten the rams of your flock. That which was torn of beasts I did not bring to you. I bore the loss of it in myself. You required it of my hand, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. Thus I was by day the heat consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep fled from my eyes. These 20 years I have been in your house. Now, biblically, the number 20 means completion. So again, this number 20 is a time of completion. So, like I talked about earlier, God remembered Rachel when the time was complete. God opened up Rachel's womb. So for whatever reason, maybe it took that long for Esau, for his anger to subside towards Jacob. Maybe if Jacob would have left in 14 years, Esau's anger would not have been subsided yet. Maybe in 16 years, 17, 18, 19. Maybe it took 20 years for Esau's anger towards Jacob to subside. Whatever it was a time of completion. Therefore, God opened up Rachel's womb. Jacob was dissatisfied and then began to move forward and return to his home. So again, the point is God's good. He knows what he's doing. If you're waiting for something to unfold, God didn't forget. He won't suddenly remember you one day. Just the time of completion hasn't yet arrived. So continue to be patient and trust in the Lord, and know that when it's time, he'll open up the door. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters and 6 years for your flock, and you changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had not been for me, surely now you would have sent me away empty-handed. God has seen my affliction and the toil of my hands, so he rendered judgment last night. He's reminding, because it's getting heated. Now Jacob's getting hot, right? He's went through his stuff. Jacob's reminding him, God visited you in a dream last night, and God already rendered judgment in my favor. It's time, you need to just go about your business.
Get on down the road.
Get on down, kick rocks. Right? It's time to go. Then Laban replied to Jacob, the daughter, see, now look, Laban's real heart posture is about to come out. Remember, he was just like, well, if you would have told me, we would have sang songs, and I would have kissed my children, and I would have blessed you and sent you off with a party. Sure you would have. Now Laban's real heart is about to be revealed. Then Laban replied to Jacob, the daughters are my daughters, the children are my children, and the flocks are my flock, and all that you see is mine. But what can I do this day to these my daughters, or to their children whom they have borne? So now come, let's make a covenant, you and I, and let it be a witness between you and me. Then Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar. Jacob said to his kinsmen, gather stones. So they took stones and made a heap, and they ate there by the heap. Now Laban called it Jagar Sahadutha, But Jacob called it Galid, which it means the same thing, like heap of rocks of witnesses, one in Laban's language, one in Hebrew, right? It means the same thing. And Mizpah, for he said, may the Lord watch between you and me when we are absent from one another. If you mistreat my daughters, or if you take wives besides my daughters, although no man is with us, see, God is witness between you and me. Laban said to Jacob, behold this heap, and behold the pillar which I have set between you and me. This heap is a witness, and the pillar is a witness, that I will not pass by this heap to you for harm, and you will not pass by this heap and this pillar to me for harm. The God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge between us. So Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice on the mountain and called his kinsmen to the meal, and they ate the meal and spent the night on the mountain. So that's one of the ways that they would complete a covenant or enter into a covenant agreement, would be to eat a meal together. And this is why I talk about, and I've preached and taught and believe, and why we have food here, is because we are really engaging powerfully in the covenant that we have between each other when we have a meal together. And that's why it's really important that we don't really fellowship and open ourselves up to unbelievers, and that we really engage with each. Eating a meal together is a very powerful form of engaging and solidifying a covenant together. It's sad that a lot of our church today, they don't eat together. They come into their fellowships, and the bigger they are, the less they know each other. They don't even know each other's names. How are they engaging in covenant together? I mean, I come home Tuesday, and I was I couldn't wait to have a meal with my wife. And I wanted a really American meal, so we went to Raising Cane's. I had chicken strips, But it was really good to be able to sit at the table and just, talk to each other and dip our chicken strips and, just to engage in that, And it's, I love that saying, that rabbi of old that said, "There's no Torah without food, and no food without Torah." The Torah is the instruction. It is the covenant of Moses. And there's no covenant without, partaking of food together. What would Jesus do? He would go and sit down and have a meal, right? He called Matthew, and Matthew threw a feast. He called Zacchaeus down out of the tree and told him to go make a feast. It's what did you do with Lazarus and Mary and Martha? They had a meal with him, right? So it's so important that we have meals together. Early in the morning, Laban arose and kissed his sons and his daughters and blessed them. Then Laban departed and returned to his place. Now, as Jacob went on his way, right, Vayetze, the angels of God met him. Jacob said, "We have saw them. This is God's camp." So he named that place Mahanaim. Then Jacob sent messengers before him to his brother Esau in the land of Zaire and the country of Edom. Hallelujah. That's it. That's the portion. So I think it's interesting. It ends with Jacob sending off messengers to his brother. Now, we kept reading about the completed time, the completion of time. There was a lot of sevens. 7 years for Leah, 7 years for Rachel. Those are times of completion. 20 years he was with Laban serving. Again, that's a number of completion. Now, for whatever reason, God knew that when the time was complete, He opened up Rachel's, and then we see that Jacob becomes, discontent. I think of my own life, and I shared this last night, working for Discovering the Jewish Jesus for 7 years. It's interesting. It just kind of dawned on me. And I'm 40-something years old, and I've become discontent with sitting in that office making phone calls. Like men, we like to conquer. We want to build, or, most men that have gumption. We want to be doing something, Felipe, 72? 72. And, he started out serving 40 families a month in his food outreach. And then 50, and then 60, and then 90. And he doesn't have enough help. But yet he's like, we're going to break 100 this, right? That's like the nature of a man, the nature that God has given us. So I was sitting in this office and calling people and praying with them. Beautiful thing to do. But I was like, man, Lord, shouldn't I be doing more? And then the Lord let me come to a place of being content in that. And then the moment that my heart posture was right, when the time was right, when the time was completed, then God opened up a door and changed things and moved things for me. So, the moral of the story, the point is like one thing I think that we can learn is know that God is in every situation, and even in your waiting, God's in it, and the time just is not yet complete. And He knows the right time. He knows the plans that He has for you. And just be patient and wait on the Lord, and He's going to open the door and move you forward. Amen?